character design, and animation. I'm going to make design, and I'll show how I made a move afterwards. First, establish what your character is for, or their story. Mine being simple, I just need a character to represent me when I can't use fancy camera work to convey what I actually want. Speaking of simple, I decided I want to animate this guy, so he needs to be easy to draw repeatedly. If not, the workload will be truly devastating. Simple shapes are key here. Second, I absolutely needed specific reference and made an inspiration/mood board consisting of a variety of simplified characters, mostly YouTube avatars, but also some indie animated characters. After I knew the gist of what I wanted, I got more specific with 4 categories. Now establishing parts I like from each of them, I can start my own from here. Starting with a sheet of a few different designs, I already like one of them, so I'm going to expand on it. Besides just the fact that it's simple, I wanted a squared off head and a trench coat, as that's kind of how I dress, and I just think it looks cool. Well, I colored and came up with this. Wait, this doesn't look like the guy in the beginning, and if you thought that, you'd be right. After attempting a few poses, I found I had no idea how to draw this character from any angle besides straight on. So, back to the design stage. I adjusted the shapes to be more prominent, and the colors to pop a bit more. I created this, the 8-point character turnaround. I also created a few poses because I wanted to make it short, and it worked pretty well. But wait, is that it? No. The character you saw earlier, I also designed. And, unlike my YouTube persona, it's not just a cartoon version myself. It's a completely new character. This one's the real design. The others I just came up on the spot, which is why they're not that great. I wanted this character to be a lot of stuff I like or think is interesting. I collected a variety of references, separated by parts I thought held most importance. I had an idea to have a vampire character. Sorry, editing Mike here. This was way too boring. Basically, the gist of it is, it's a vampire character, and they socially hide away, and all the design is around that idea. After all that work, was it worth it? I mean, that took a while. Well, of course. I love this stuff. I live for learning and applying, so I enjoyed redrawing and slightly altering one after another to get what I feel satisfied with for now. I've tried designing characters, but with a more loose idea in mind rather than research into a character type closed style of art, and it lacks specific ideation making and pretty bad art as well as designs. Side note, hair composition's really cool. That's why I gave her really long hair, because I've seen really cool stuff with it. Alright, back to this guy. This was my first animation, so how have I been animating this guy throughout the video? What did I need to break into animation further? Before I made that turnaround, lots of notes were needed, from this guy and these guys from Rick and Morty. One being a general use on Clip Studio Paint's animation features, and one on the 8-point turnaround specifically. I'll be using Clip Studio Paint, but I used to use Krita, and I still hear good things, and I've also heard good things about Procreate Dreams and Flip-a-Clip if you're an iPad user. Behold, the first 2 animations I did, not including the 8-point turnaround. These 2 were the first from my imagination, which is why I consider them the first 2, rather than the 8-point turnaround being one of them. And let me tell you, these were brutal. They sucked to do. And I'll come back to what actually helped me make it less terrible to do. Alright, now we need to actually learn how to animate, like what's important to know. Well, here's some basics I picked up in my little research. Animating on 1s, 2s, 3s, or a mixture depending on what the scene needs. To understand this, understanding drawings per second is also important. Animating on 1s is 1 drawing every frame, 2s is a drawing every other frame, and 3s is a drawing every 3 frames. And here's a mix. Next is rigging animation. This requires a bunch of assets that you move around to make an animation instead of drawing them every frame. There's also these bones or connector points with some of this type of animation, but Clip Studio Paint doesn't really have an edit. In Clip Studio Paint 4.0, it kind of does, but I have 3, so GG's. Sometimes I use this to cut my characters apart, and so I don't have to redraw things. But generally, I use it a more lazy way rather than a thought-out way. Next up, keyframing. This one I think is cool because it works similar to how my editing program works, and it's probably the easiest when it comes to number of drawings. Keep in mind that keyframing works in conjunction with the asset or puppet-based animation you saw earlier. And the number one thing that I found helpful, at least leveling up from a very base level understanding of animation, was timing charts. These allow for you to actually plan out animation without animating it. Just plan it, and it opens up so many doors. Here's a few examples of timing charts. These allow you to give emphasis to one point or another depending on the movement, and this allows for better planning, and for me, that is really important. In simple terms, it's putting the important frames first, and then using a sheet to plan how the animation is going to look. These two videos I found very helpful for learning timing charts. Back to these two. This was before I used timing charts, which is why I emphasize how awesome they are. I've done a few things not for this video too, but I actually took so long with this video that I don't feel they're indicative of what I can currently do. But I came this far, so I must upload. Now I got this little guy to help me with my videos.